The big issue here, of course, is we're seeing the stock market here in Shanghai also sell off as the nerves start ratcheting up here. But you've got these mixed signals coming from Washington. So those in the leadership in Beijing are probably scratching their head. How are we going to diffuse this? Because you have some officials in Washington saying, we're not just targeting China, and others saying we need to target China for theft of intellectual property rights. And then it's not just about the deficit, reducing the deficit. This latest action that could come as soon as Friday would be on national security grounds. So there's lots of issues that, keep in mind, there's no formal talks or negotiations scheduled. So it's all being kind of aired out like here on the media, right? So the Beijing leadership perhaps a little bit worried that this is going to escalate as we hit these deadlines. July 6th, next Friday, is that deadline for $34 billion or tariffs on $34 billion. And then this Friday is the possibility of enacting this Economic Powers Act on national security grounds against Chinese investment in the United States in sensitive high-tech industries like robotics and new energy vehicles and others. So there's some concern here, and that's why yesterday you saw the EU and also Chinese leadership come together and oppose unilateralism and protectionism, and saying the path that we're heading right now is a path towards possible recession. And then we also heard through a Wall Street Journal report that Xi Jinping telling a group last Thursday of mostly U.S. and European multinational CEOs that this is, that China is going to strike back. And Xi Jinping was quoted as saying, and I paraphrase, in the West, we're known as turning the other cheek when you're hit in the face. In Chinese culture, they punch back. So there's a lot of rhetoric on both sides.
Well, yeah, I mean, Steve, speaking of concerns and retaliating forcefully here, we're just getting a line, in fact, right now from the National Bureau of Statistics. Well, what they're saying is uncertainties in the international environment continue to increase. So that's one part of the equation. The other part, as you mentioned, is Beijing coming out, and they're saying outwardly that they will respond forcefully. But surely within the conversations in Beijing, they must be worried as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure there's tons of discussions in the walls, behind the walls in Zhongnan High on how to counter this, because Xi Jinping, like Donald Trump, is a nationalistic leader, and very different from the old adage from Deng Xiaoping of, hide your strength and bide your time. No, China has firmly put its place on the global stage as a leader, and they do not want to show any weakness. But we're hearing from sources that there's some key, very prominent economists have circulated a number of essays and papers around China, and that's being censored on social media as well, that perhaps the leadership in China has misjudged or miscalculated the extent of the anti-China sentiment in Washington, and perhaps, of course, that the Chinese economy is too reliant on exports for its growth at a time when there are some cracks in the wall right now as far as the stability of the Chinese economy and the debt loads.